Okay, good morning, everybody. I wanted to start off by saying thank you for giving me this opportunity. Um, Dylan just described my disc profile, which I remember that day I told him was an unhealthy amount of C. And I'll talk about it a little later on in my presentation, but I've just grown a lot, and it's from events like these and people like all of you. So I'm happy to be able to share and get back to a room full of amazing people. My introduction, who am I? So I'm Evie's mom. You can't see the picture, but she's a big part of my why and a big reason that a lot of this change and growth happened. And really just the timing of everything was just right, sort of like Dylan explained in the intro. I was born and raised here on the Big Island. And after high school, I moved away for college and some travel. And I moved back in, I think, 2015, and that's when I started bartending, waitressing, and I just remember I was struggling to pay bills, rents, and basic car payments, and it just kind of felt like I was in the rat race, and I was looking for my way out and didn't know what it was going to be or what it looked like, but I was watching for it. And I remember seeing what I know now were realtors coming in and out of the restaurants, and they were networking and meeting with their clients. And I think I just recognized their energy and like the sense of freedom that they had. And I didn't know what the job entailed, but that's what I wanted. And so I signed up for my classes and I passed, and I became a realtor in 2017. And that's when I signed on with Coldwell Banker and met the Nonakas. And like you mentioned, my first 4 years of real estate were a flop. I absolutely hated it. And I remember I was just always trying to be, like he said, dressed up as the HDTV. And I just thought if I could fake it, I was going to make it. And it was not working out. I was still part time at the restaurant, part time agent. And yeah, absolutely hated it. Still, now I'm in real estate and now I'm still looking for my opportunity. And it was a little frustrating, but I really just took the time to um, I guess in that time, I didn't have very much experience or support or motivation um, from the agents I was around and the company I was with. But I took the time to realize what I liked about the job I was doing and what I didn't like. And I decided that I was just going to dive into my niche as a TC, because every time I did get an escrow, that was the only part of it I enjoyed. I did not like open houses. I did not like networking. I didn't like lunches with agents. Like, I decided this was my thing and this is not my thing. And I went with what I loved. And so finding my niche was a really big change in my business. Um, and as he said, the timing was right. I was watching for my opportunity, and that's when I met Kelly camping. And she mentioned that Dylan's agency team was going to need some help with a TC. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. And that's kind of the beginning of my team, which is Connection Transaction Services. Um, Full disclosure, a lot of this is ripped off of Dylan. I feel like he gives you guys the salesperson playbook and he tells you to run the play. And I was like, but I don't want to be a salesperson. But I saw this other playbook that he was using to build this amazing team. And I was like, well, I'm going to steal that playbook and build my own team and focus on what I want to focus on, which was transaction management. So that's what we're going to talk about is team building, basics of how to build a team, the benefits of team building, the struggles. And then I know not everybody here might want to build a team, so I just threw in a few extras so that you can still be involved if the topic's not interesting. I already talked about that one, watch for opportunities. Whenever you're in a place where you're not doing what you wish you could be doing, just being aware and really being truthful with yourself about what you're doing that you like and what you don't like and how you can do more of what you like. And he kind of talked about that too, like the more you help other people, the more it just works out. And so that's something I really focused on. And some other ones that I'll touch on later. So basics of team building. And And again, I think I just want to be a face. This is going to be really basic and quick today because I know we're all hungry and overcaffeinated. But if you ever do decide to build a team, just give me a call and we can totally talk about this in more depth. But so step one, you're going to want to define a clear objective. And for me, that was transaction management and how to do it efficiently. And eventually I realized I had to do it at scale if I was going to help Dylan and his team. Um, and I realized that your objective might evolve a little bit as you do. So that's something else to keep in mind. Building repeatable SOPs and templates. I also ripped this from Dylan. If you're going to do something, do it once. And so I remember when I was first building the team, I would stay up to like 3 a.m. And anything I had worked on that day, I was sort of copying and pasting into like a process sheet, and just templates that I could use so that I could just copy and paste or hand it to someone else so that they could do it as well. Um, but that step two is super important. I think without that, there's there's no way to build a team. And then setting up your system. So as you start to grow, things are going to get busier and you're going to start to hit your objective, but it needs to be sustainable. And so when people have requests for me, I like just try to keep it really organized. And that's why I have a website set up. So if somebody has a question, I have somewhere to direct them to. I'm not constantly just taking on things for myself. And same thing for my teammates. When they need something or they're assigned something, they already have a system to go to. I did bring on one VA that kind of just helps us lighten the load of like our busy back work. Um, but the focus of my team is really that we're working together as a team. So it's not that the other TCs are not my assistants, but we all work together. So a little bit different than what Tara was speaking about, but the same concept. And then accounting, you're going to want systems for that and ways to just track your progress and track your needs. Marketing your services. This is something that I'm lacking a bit in right now, but it's something that's needed. I got really lucky. You know, Dylan needed my help, and Dylan's extremely successful. So I kind of rode this wave into transaction management with him, but I have branched out and I do help EXP agents now on all islands. So, but just a way to reach people and let them know what you're offering and how you can help. And number 5, tracking your progress. I was not doing this at first, and especially as you start to step away, I guess, from the first level that you're working on, and now you're starting to do admin and marketing, you want a way to know what's going on when people are talking to you, if that makes sense. Um, and so I literally keep a Google tracking sheet of everything that's going on every day, and it's just something I can reference without having to keep it on my mind. So just another system. And then constantly just a way to review and improve things that are going on while you're building your team. What you do need is knowledge of the topic. Like, I think Dylan runs a killer sales team because he knows so much about real estate sales. And so I thought that's why I was going to just jump into this transaction management team because that's what I love and know a lot about. So, knowledge of the topic, effective communication. It's really important to be able to, again, like Dylan does with his team, communicate what you want and what you need, communicate when things are going well and communicate when they're not. And you need to find people you like and trust, which I've been super lucky to find agents that I like and trust to work with. And then, of course, my TCs. I'm going to talk a bit more about that later, too. And then just ambition to keep going. I mentioned my daughter earlier is a big reason why, but just having, it's not always easy, but having the will to like keep going. Once you start like team building, and Dylan can probably relate to this, it's when it's hard, I feel like there's so much responsibility. And as much as I want to just quit and back out, like you just can't. Like there's people relying on you now. And so just having the will to keep going and the ambition. So that leads into challenges of team building. Providing value is difficult sometimes. When I'm trying to get agents to work with our transaction team. It's really trying to get them to understand what the value is. Like, why would it be beneficial to pay me to do your paperwork instead of doing it yourself? And same thing for my TCs. It's like providing them value. Like, why don't they just go do transaction management on their own? Like, why would they want to be part of my team? And so sometimes that's a struggle. But once you find what your value is, it gets a little bit easier. Instant income versus admin and production. So at first, it's sort of like stepping away from your 9 to 5 job and you jump into sales. It's really hard. At first, I was doing all the transaction management myself, and I had to start to let it go, which meant paying my team more and taking less. But that's because now I'm focusing more on admin and increasing production. So in the end, it will even out, sort of just like when you jumped your 9 to 5 into your sales full time if you had. But that can be a challenge of its own. Work discipline and boundaries. When you're working with so many people, I work with a lot of agents and I work with a lot of TCs, and there's just all these moving parts, and it gets really hard to draw boundaries and have a life sometimes. But it's doable. Balancing all aspects of a healthy team. So, again, in the introduction, I was talking about systems, finances, um, addressing things that need to be improved within the team. And so that's probably my biggest challenge because it's constantly evolving and there's constantly things to address. So just really always keeping your eyes wide open on all the things that are going on. For me, it's for the agents and the TCs, but I guess as a sales team, it would be for your clients and your co-agents. Disassociation from the base level. That's sort of what I was talking about as a way to track as you step off and you're doing administrative work and trying to increase production. It feels like you don't know what's going on at base level. So really just trusting the people that you're bringing onto your team and making sure that your systems are set up so that you don't feel completely absent from what you're stepping away from can be difficult. And then teammate turnover. I had one of my TCs who's been with me for 2.5 years now. She is growing and evolving and she's jumping full on into sales. And so that's sort of the idea, is that people grow and evolve. And so I'm super excited for her, but learning to and having the systems to turn over positions can be another challenge. So those are the challenges of team building, which was a super tiny piece of my notes. But the benefits of team building, I had a hard time stopping. So I narrowed it down to 3, which are scaling, community, and personal growth. And so for scaling, I know you guys can't really read this, but so my first year when I joined Dylan's team, I joined in October. So I did 2 transactions with him. That was a super pivotal time though, because that's when I was really getting the picture of what was needed of me and how fast it was going to grow. And that meant how fast I had to build a team. And it was kind of scary. But Dylan said, jump off the cliff and build a plane later. And that's what I did. And I'm still building the plane. So in 2022, that's when I brought on my first 2 TCs, and together we closed 169 transactions. Last year we closed 239, and then this year we're on track to do 374. We, we've been really busy. You have more transactions in the days in the year. That was my goal this year, was to do 1 transaction a day. So we did. We met the goal for the year. So those were the numbers, which are fun. But the benefits that come with scaling, the technical definition of efficiency is the ratio of useful work performed by a machine or in a process to the total energy expended or spent. And so really what I was taking from that was useful work and energy spent. And sort of like my first 4 years in real estate, just pretending that I could do the whole thing on my own. really zero amount of useful work and a lot of energy spent. And so I sort of just have started to do the opposite. And now I'm starting to see the benefits of that. And although I'm sure most of you don't like to do transaction work, it's kind of the same concept, just finding the pieces that you're good at and that you enjoy, and then finding a way to reassign the rest of it. Um, Sort of like a factory or a restaurant. I know I've said that before. I used to be in the restaurant industry. And to me, those first 4 years, it felt like I was running a restaurant by myself. Like I was cooking the food and I was washing the dishes, but I was serving the tables and managing the bar. And it wasn't working. It was a mess of a show. And so that was my idea for scaling. Check sizes and frequency. I think a lot of times when you have to consider scaling, you have to give away a lot of your portion. Like growing the TC team, I knew I was going to have to pay them, which was going to mean less for me. But the way I had to think of it was if we can create more scale, we're going to make smaller checks, but a lot more of them. And so it's uncomfortable at first, but just something to trust your systems once you set them up and go for it. And then there's combined experience and knowledge. And when you're doing more than a transaction and closing a day, you're just seeing so much and learning so much. Um, and then you just really hear that, like, my PC who's leaving to focus on sales. I think she learns so much. I'm learning so much. Um, and then for the clients that we're helping, if you're an agent and you're working with one of our TCs, because we've seen so much, it's likely that the problem you're going through, we haven't seen it happen yet. So it's knowledge that we can then pass on to you and pass on to your clients. So just working um, is another benefit of scaling, and consistency, because we're doing it so often, and we're doing it using a system. It's almost the same every time. And that's a good thing for you as an agent and for your clients as well. And then, of course, gain confidence. Like I said, the TC who's leaving to do her sales, I think she just learned so much, and now she has the confidence to move on to her next step. And so that's been a huge benefit. And finding challenges and solutions. I think with this NAR change, our team really learned a lot, and we learned it fast because we were seeing everything at such a fast pace with the amount of volume Dylan was doing. He did an Instagram on this if you haven't seen it. But we were sort of noticing things before they were being addressed. And so we were able to help provide solutions and get ahead of those challenges before they were issues for our clients. So. Community, collaborating within the group. So I have 5 TCs right now and 1 assistant. But just the amount of collaboration that we do, I never feel like I have to make decisions on my own. I always feel like there's somebody I can bounce ideas off of, and vice versa. We always have each other. There's constantly new ideas and discovering because we're constantly on topic. I think because we're not alone and we're constantly focused on what we're doing, it's always evolving and growing. And then finding people who share your personality traits. Like, I really enjoy working with all of you type D agents, but I have really grown this small community of hardworking moms. They're very similar to me. I think if we had our disc profiles next to each other, you probably couldn't tell who was who. And that's been really cool to just connect with people on a deeper level that way. And like I mentioned earlier, accountability and support when things are difficult. When you want to give up because you have this team of people, it's impossible. So it's kind of an easy way to keep, not a lot, an easy way to keep going. And then my favorite benefit from team building has been personal growth. And you can't see it, but the disc profile's up there. And like Dylan said, when I took that first one back in 2000, and it was 21 or 22, I had an unhealthy amount of C on my disc profile. And I think that starting this team and being held accountable and problem solving, all the things that I've had to do to get to this point have maybe centered me a little bit more on the disc profile, because I have to be a little bit of all those types to take care of all the people that I've signed up to help. So that's been a really big benefit. Learning to let go. I know type C, we want to do everything ourselves and we don't trust that somebody else could do it as good as we do. And I've really squashed that. And I've been proven wrong. Sometimes I'll hand things off or create a system, and the girls have shown me that it can be done better. And I'm thankful for that too. And then applying these skills to my personal life, I'm learning to ask for help when I need it, and assigning tasks to other people. So that's, in relationships that I have in my personal life, being a mom, asking for help is really important. And so I've gotten a lot better at that too. And clearly communicating. On here, I have responsibility versus ego. This is kind of what Dylan was talking about when he said competition versus ambition. I think at first when I was starting this team, I was really freaked out because it would feel like me, like I'm the team leader and people have to listen to me. And I didn't know how to do that because it's not my personality type. But I realized that's like an ego way to look at it instead of a responsibility. And so, like, as a mom, I just look at it that way. Like, people need what I have to offer, and I'm happy to offer it. And that's made it a lot easier for me. So, personal growth was a huge benefit of team building. So, closing notes. Oh, did I have a side note on the last one? No. Okay, closing notes. Um, Team building, like I mentioned, might not be for everybody, and that's totally fine. But in real estate, we all know ROI. And if I had to assess the experience that I've gone through these past few years, it's that team building is a great ROI. It's really difficult sometimes and it takes a lot of work, but the amount of growth and progress that I've found with it, it's hard to explain sometimes. It's more than just the numbers that I showed on the scaling slide. So let's make a connection. My email is on your lanyards. I have Instagram. I'm always on Dylan's calls and stuff. So yeah, reach out. If you're scared to jump and build the plane, I'll jump with you and we can build it together. Thanks for having me.